Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Harrogate series. Harrogate is a large borough, one of the 11 districts of North Yorkshire. It's got 139 civil parishes. Which one are we in this episode? Welcome back to Harrogate again, everybody, and here begins a run of really small ones. None of these will take me all that long to do. There are 12 of them in total, and it'll take us into September. That's quite a scary thought, isn't it? Where's this year going? So this is the first of said 12, and it's a simple linear walk from one end of this place to the other, and its name is Skelton on URE. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Skelton on URE, Shelf Farm on the Swift River. Yes indeed, the parish of Skelton on URE will begin a run that will take us into the autumn, and a lot of the ones we'll be seeing over these next couple of months have connections to the Newby Hall Estate. This one has perhaps the biggest connection, being located literally right next to its entrance gate. Skelton on URE has always been a village associated with agriculture. Even today, its surroundings are mainly lush arable fields and pastures, and the sight of a tractor on the narrow lanes leading to it, from it and all around it is nothing out of the ordinary. The oldest building here dates from 1540, but mostly Skelton is an array of brick-built cottages, mostly dating from the 18th and 19th centuries. Many of them were constructed from bricks made locally, owing to brick kilns north of the village. They were close to a former tower mill, which used to be in the parish of Kirby Hill, but was transferred to Skelton thanks to a rather unpleasant and definitely an unwanted find. In this one, we'll also be discussing the church and its history, the one and only pub which is currently closed but won't be for long, and we'll also learn a bit about a self-made man who started life as a cooper. It may all be in the shadow of the Newby Hall Estate, but Skelton on URE has its own identity. Let's go discover it. We start on the B6265 and our first landmark is Skelton Mill, a tower mill which dominates the road as it skirts the northern edge of the parish. You can't stop on this road, so I had to just film this using the car. Mind you, Skelton Mill does have the advantage of standing out a mile. It's a Georgian windmill that was once owned by the Newby Hall Estate. Completed in 1822 and Grade 2 listed, the building was used to grind corn and other cereals when it was active. It's lost its cap and sails, but it remains the best example of its type in North Yorkshire, a county which traditionally doesn't have many. For a short time after it ceased working, it was used as a viewing tower. The mill is quite away from Skelton, but still in the parish. The land it stands on was originally part of Kirby Hill instead. Legend has it, it was passed to Skelton after Kirby Hill refused to bury a vagrant found dead on the site. The unfortunate soul was eventually then laid to rest by the people of Skelton. Skelton on URE is a linear village, and just about as linear as they come. Almost everything here is on this, Main Street, which is also known as Skelton Lane. This was a farming village typical of its type in this part of Yorkshire. Still predominantly agricultural today, the only thing that's really changed are the farming methods. The open field system ceased to be a thing here in 1795 when the Enclosure Act came into being. Back then, there were no buses of course, so here's another change. Skelton is served by the numbers 82 and 822 Dales bus services, and they run from Pocklington to Grassington. Buildings-wise, Skelton is mostly 18th and 19th century brick houses, with a few more modern ones here and there. Most of the houses here are constructed using bricks made from the heavy clay soil that surrounds the village. There was once a clay pit close to Skelton Mill, complete with kilns for brick making. About a quarter of a way along the street is a side road. If you were to head along there, you'd reach Newby Hall Cricket Club. Members of the Nidderdale League, the club established its current square in the 1920s. By the 1930s, they twice won the Ripon knockout competition. Back to the main street, here we have an old Wesleyan chapel now converted into a private dwelling. Skelton was never a hotbed of nonconformism. As far as I can tell, this was the only nonconformist chapel the village has ever had. We continue, and next we come to a bus shelter. Not normally something of great importance, but this one has a plaque on it. It remembers Hartus Foxton, a valued member of the community. Also on its wall, we have a parish notice board, so it's time for the cards to come out. Tick off another Harrogate Parish, everyone. Skelton is done. Here's one of the former village shops. There's always been a village shop in Skelton, although it's moved from place to place over the centuries. It seemed closed though, so perhaps there is one no longer. This next area is residential, and it's a nice mix. Check out this lovely little square at Orchard Way. Skelton has had two notable residents in its time. One was a former Prime Minister, more on him next week. The other was George Dawson. The son of a village labourer, he was a self-made man who started life as a cooper, became a rich entrepreneur, and eventually built himself a grand mansion. Now we come to the church, and this is one of the smallest we've ever seen on TVI. The present building, which is dedicated to St Helen, was built in 1810, but this isn't the first Skelton has ever had to its name. This replaced an earlier church, thought to have been dedicated to St Swithin, that dated back to the 13th century. St Helens itself has a varied history, being largely built by John Middleton, a relative of the Leake family. Lord Grantham donated the land on which it stands. His name will be familiar to fans of Downton Abbey, as he was connected with the man in the TV series. Okay, so we're about halfway down the main street now. We've seen most of the major features already. There are a couple still to go. There's a school right at the end of this walk, and our next thing is a pub, which you might just be able to see over my shoulder there. That is the pub in question. Well, let's have a look at it. The pub is called the Black Lion, and it closed in 2019. However, this will soon be reopening under a new guise, the Skelton Pub and Hub. At one time, there was another pub here called the Malt Shovel, located at the northern end of the main street. Every village would have had a blacksmith in the 18th century, and they were often linked to pubs. That's why the old blacksmith's house is literally right next door to the Black Lion. It was once owned by the proprietors of the pub. Following that is a huge barn-like building, underlining the agricultural feel that modern-day Skelton still has to it. The house over the road at this point is the old vicarage, but it's what's in front of this that caught my eye. Skelton has a little garden with a bench, placed here in 1977 to mark the Silver Jubilee of Queen Elizabeth II. Not a bad place to perch and watch the world go by, if you're inclined to do so. Over the road we've got the village hall. This originated as a reading room and still retains that name. It was provided by the Newby Estate to give locals access to a library of books. Outside there's a restored war memorial on the porch wall. A total of 14 men from Skelton gave their lives in World War I. Next up is the old phone box, which has been turned into a book exchange. The locals know this as the village office. Not a bad way to look at it, actually. We're almost at the end of the village now, as the street hits a junction. If you go straight on, you come to the Newby Hall gates, but we're heading left to the school. Named Skelton Newby Hall, this was closed by North Yorkshire Council in August 2023. It was built in the mid-19th century by Lady Mary Viner, replacing a previous school which was for boys only. Prior to that, children were rather rudimentarily educated by a local dame school. It's always good when you're in Yorkshire to see the white rose flying proudly in the breeze. To be fair, that could be the same for any county really. We see plenty of Lincolnshire, Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire flags as well, don't we? So that's effectively the end of the walk through Skelton on URE. It's not a big place by any stretch of the imagination. Most people that come to this part of the Harrogate district though don't come for Skelton, they come for Newby Hall instead, and that will form the basis of next week's episode. So we better walk back to the car and see if we can find it then, shall we? And so all that's left is to make our way to the gates of Newby Hall, fabulous stone structures which you simply can't miss if you enter Skelton from the east. This, the main entrance to the Newby Hall Estate, was used in 2007 as a filming location for Jane Austen's Mansfield Park, part of the complete Jane Austen series that was broadcast by PBS. Next week, we'll be heading through those gates, where there's plenty more to discuss. Do come back soon. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.